Really heavy braking zone here, very hard to brake into that corner and then put the power down nice and early. Very easy to lose traction, as Reg almost did going into the final corner there, but this has been a decent lap. Certainly room for improvement. Reg Meister with a 1:15.5 sets the pace here, immediately followed by SLR Jam with a 1:15.1. Marco setting the fastest lap with a 1:14.3. Great performance from him last weekend and looking like he's going to try and set the same here today. What about Matigia? Is he on a lap at the moment? And if so, what kind of lap time are we going to see from Marco's teammate in the other Haas? It is going to be the 1:14s. A 1:14.8 sends Matigia P4. Good performance from him. But I think we've yet to see the full potential of these guys so far. We've got Bjarni, who's on a lap. Let's see what kind of lap time Bjarni's going to do here on his first flying lap. It looks pretty good as he comes into the final couple of corners, but what is the final time going to be for Bjarni as he rounds the final corner very tight to the inside? 1:14.1, and that is going to be the pace so far from Bjarni Olsen. So far, Parker's Kick Sauber predictions not looking great, both of them failing to set a lap time on their first run. That's fantastic through the S's from Reg, and now we'll see what kind of time this is going to be. Will it be good enough to get into the 1:14s? No. 1:15.3 for Reg, sends him P10 for now. This track is brutal, especially in Sector 2, and I know I've talked about it a lot, but the thing that you have to remember about this track is that 1.2 kilometer straight down the pit straight is enough to make most people on setup go towards a low downforce setup, but you find it really difficult to negotiate the next couple of sectors, because there's a lot of sort of medium to high speed corners and a few low speed corners that you would really benefit from having more downforce. But the more downforce you go for, obviously, the more difficult it is to negotiate those sectors. So 1:15.3 is the time that rank up sets there. Good enough to send in P10, just about beats out Reg, but let's see what Magnus can do on his second lap. Looking like a bit tidier here from the Dane. Comes around, crosses the line, 1:14.7. That sends him P4 for the time being, and he'll have time to get round again. Let's ride on board with the provisional pole sitter at the moment and see what kind of lap time he can do on his second flying lap here today around the Mexico City circuit. FFTB going 5th fastest there with a 1:14.7, just beats out Magnus for that P5 position provisionally, but you would expect everyone to have another run around here. Good negotiation of the first few corners from Bjarni, nice and tight to the inside of the corners, but not too tight to the inside that he unsettles the car on these very steep sausage curbs around the Mexico City circuit. Bjarni Olsen now coming into Sector 2. This is that really technical, tricky part I was talking about. It'll be interesting to see how differently the drivers negotiate this one as we make our way around the lap, because there will be a few that have gone a little bit higher on downforce, and you would expect those to lose a bit more time in the first sector, but then gain it back in the second and third sectors, as there is a few more corners there for them to make up a bit of time with a bit less downforce. Bjarni using the full width of the track at the moment. You can see he's almost a 10th up on his best lap already, as Marco there has set a 1:14.2, so he's looking very close with Bjarni at the moment, but I think Bjarni just about has the edge at the moment. Rounding the final corner now, tight to the inside again, Bjarni crosses the line and improves on his time by 0.04 of a second. Another 1:14.1 for Bjarni, and currently less than a 10th separating those top two. Reg makes his way through the second of the S's and now into that final sector. 0.5 up on his best time. This is a bit more like it from Reg. Definitely going to be in the 1:14s as long as he doesn't make any mistakes here. Rounds the final corner, or the final few corners into the final sector. Now he gets to the final corner. And what kind of lap time is this going to be for Reg Meister Gamer as he comes to the line? It is a 1:14.3, puts himself P3. Fantastic job from Reg. Let's see what Magnus is going to do now as he comes to the line. It is a 1:14.5, goes P5. Next up, Razza. What's he going to do? Hasn't invalidated this time, so he is going to be able to set a lap. Is it going to be any good? Comes to the line, 1:15.0 for Razza as the time ticks over, so nobody else will be setting any laps. D-Mub is going to be the next to cross the line as he comes around the final corner. 1:14.6 for D-Mub, goes P6. Then it is going to be Bourbon, doesn't manage to make it round in time. Tom next, 115.4, can't improve, will be P14 at best. Sheehan crosses the line, doesn't improve, stays P4. Next we've got a Mercedes, that is John Marco. What can he do? Coming around the final corner, 114.5 for John Marco, goes P4, knocks Sheehan out of that position. Then we have the two Hasses, P2 and P3. Marco can't improve, and Matigia stays P3 as well. Next, I believe that is FFTB crossing the line. 114.6 can't improve, and Bjarni stays on a 114.1, so he can't beat his time either. Next we have Arian about to cross the line. Yep, Arian coming around now. What time is this going to be from him? 115.3, can't improve. We got a Williams, who I think is just coming straight into the pits, and I believe that is going to be the end of the session. Let's run through the entirety of our top three here. So we've got Bjarni Olsen, followed by Marco, Matigia, Regmeister Gamer with a fantastic P4, John Marco in P5, Sheehan P6, Magnus P7, FFTB P8, DMUB P9, and Jam in P10. And then the rest of your drivers are Arian, the only other driver in the 114s, then Razza, Rank Up With Me, Tom Go Prof, and then Ollie Broadford, Dusty Bassoon, Bourbon Boy all failed to set lap times, and Barmy was disqualified from the session. And here we are. Who is going to win the 36 laps of the Mexico City Grand Prix as the lights come on? And the lights go out, and we are underway at the Mexico City Grand Prix. Looks like Matigia's had a great start there, trying to fight his way up into P1, and he's already got ahead of Bjarni Olsen. What a lightning start from the pole in the Haas there, and it's looking like he's going to take the lead here. Bjarni Olsen under a lot of pressure all of a sudden. Will they all come through the first couple of corners cleanly? It looks like they're doing okay for now. Bjarni's held on to P2, but it is this man, Matigia, who leads through turn 1. Marco's had an awful start, down to P6 from P2. Reg gaining up into P3. John Marco up into P4, and Sheehan in P5. Looks like John Marco and Reg are battling away there for that final podium spot. Who is going to lead through these next couple of corners? John Marco not giving it up, but he might just have to back off a little bit for Reg as they get into the S's now. Matigia has already nearly built up a 1 second lead here, and there you can see our possible race strategies. The game seems to think it'll be a 2-stop. I definitely think we could see a 1-stop work, and we have a spinner. It is SLR Jam. We can't see him at the moment, but here he is coming back through. Looks like he's had a little bit of a moment there, has SLR Jam, so that's going to put him a little bit off the pack, but hopefully he'll be able to fight his way back through. Matigia 1.3 seconds up the road. Has Bjarni started on hards? Let's have a double check quickly. I want to see, yeah, so Bjarni started on hard. So Bjarni will be biding his time here. Meanwhile, Matigia is going to try and get as far away as he possibly can on those medium compound tyres. Looks like the Hasses have split the strategy here. So one of them on the mediums, one of them on the hards. And that could potentially give them a really good opportunity to fight for a double podium finish here today, especially with the pace that Matigia is showing right now. He is breaking away from Bjarni Olsen. He's doing well on the mediums, but remember, these are only the tyre to be on for the first 5 laps or so in this race. So let's see if Reg, maybe even John Marco and Sheehan can get past Bjarni on this occasion, or will Bjarni deploy a lot of his battery to try and maintain that position. Here comes Regmeister Gamer, moves to the inside of Bjarni Olsen. It's a motorway pass. How is Bjarni going to react to this one? Is he going to look for the move back on Reg here? No, tries to defend from John Marco. John Marco locks up a little bit there, and that is going to allow Bjarni to hold on to P3. Regmeister Gamer, meanwhile, up into P2, doing an absolutely fantastic job compared to last weekend where he finished P16, and Magnus has already got a 3-second time penalty for track limits. 0.8 of a second. I don't think this is going to be enough for Reg to hold on to this position. This DRS is so strong. It really depends on whether Bjarni is using his battery or not, and actually it looks like Reg is deploying quite a lot of battery to stay here. Bjarni happy to bide his time, but remember, he's staying there in the dirty air at the moment. The longer that he's in that dirty air, the less the tyre advantage is going to be to the medium compound runners. The hard compound tyre is probably the tyre to be on in the next couple of laps, but Bjarni has to make the most of it and not get caught up in that dirty air, or he could find that tyre advantage disintegrating a little bit. So our biggest gainer so far looks like Broadford, up 5 places from P15 to P10, having a birthday to remember right now. Obviously our biggest loser is we have a yellow flag. Who is that? Is that FFTB? FFTB's had a moment, Has he kept it going? Yes, he has. So we should be okay. Shouldn't be any safety cars or VSCs. The FFTB a long way off the pack now. Let's have a look at that front wing. Looks okay to me. Actually, no, he's got damage. His end plates are completely gone. I think he's going to have to box. Really unfortunate for FFTB there, but it's looking like it's going to have to be an early pit stop for the Red Bull driver, because you can see he is running with absolutely no end plates there, and indeed he does come in. Unfortunate for FFTB there. Just had a big moment through the S's, I imagine, and he is now down 10 places from where he started. Parker saying that Magnus should let Razza past. I have to agree, and I imagine he probably will once they get onto the main straight. But remember, Razza has to do that without, Magnus has to do that without letting Dusty through. That's the last thing they want. As Marco, you can see, has made his way up into P6 there. Is Bjarni going to look for the move in the DRS zone? No. Holds on to the position for the time being. He will have another DRS zone to contend with on the next lap, and we will see what Bjarni can do as he makes his way through this DRS zone. Will he look for a move up the inside of Matigia into the heavy braking zone of turn 4? Doesn't look like it on this occasion. Bjarni is right in there with Matigia. 0.3 of a second is the gap, as John Marco has come early into the pits. 6 laps and he decided he wants to get off them. Bjarni, though, looking for a move on Matigia. It's very easy in the end for him with the DRS. And Matigia, whilst he had a great start, you would expect that his tyres are going to start to go off now. So John Marco definitely doing that 2 stop. The medium's not looking like the tyre to be on around here. Definitely looking like the hards, and this is very good information for those racing in Division 2 tomorrow night as well, which you can check out the commentary for that on twitch.tv/L_Sheehan, who is racing here tonight, currently running in P5. He will be commentating tomorrow night for the Division 2 race. But I imagine that some of these positions are going to change in the next few laps, and one that I'm pretty confident of is Marco making his way up as Matigia boxes after just 7 laps on to the hard compound tyres, I imagine, for Matigia. So here comes Marco. Can he make his way up into P2 ahead of Regmeister? It's looking like it should be fairly trivial. Reg tries to defend it as best he can and actually manages to pull it off, but there will be another DRS zone that Reg will have to defend through. The problem is it's very difficult to follow through that sequence of corners, but Marco has done a fantastic job of doing exactly that, and he's going to go for the move, but can't pull it off for whatever reason. Is that a little bit of defending going on from Reg there that maybe is a little bit uncouth, shall we say, from Reg? It looks like he has nowhere near the pace of Marco. I'm not quite sure how he managed to hold on to that position, and I imagine it will only be a matter of time. But what Reg is doing right now is he's doing a massive favour to Bjarni Olsen, who has gained a 3-second advantage, as this time Marco is going to make his way through the DRS zone. I think that might have been tactical from Reg, you know. I think that might be tactical from Reg, because now he's going to have the DRS in that big long DRS zone. What he has to do is he has to try and hold on to this position through the next couple of corners. Try not to fall too far away from Marco. 5/6 tenths is the gap. Let's see whether Reg can gain this position back on Marco. He's actually done a fantastic job here if he can make his way back past, and that was a great little tactical move from Reg, allowing Marco through in the DRS zone, but he locks up and that allows Marco to hold on to the position. Very unfortunate there for Reg, because that was a really good tactical move, but the lockup has just cost him, and maybe now time for Reg to think about getting off those medium compound tyres, unless he's doing the one stop, of course. Welcome in, Mills. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're having an absolutely terrific Tuesday. And look at this battle between these two. They're going wheel to wheel all the way through Sector 2, and this is not going to be conducive to either of their races. The gap to Bjarni out in front now extends to 4 seconds between him and Marco, and Bjarni Olsen is in dreamland right now. Meanwhile, we've got a yellow flag. I think that's for Razza onto the grass. I'm guessing he had a spin or something like that. FFTB got the 10-second penalty. Razza now has to get going. He's going to wait for everyone to get past, and then he's going to rejoin the track here on lap 11 in P15. Really unfortunate there for Razza. I am not 100% sure about this one, just for the simple fact that Bjarni is also going to have that DRS. But look at the overspeed here from Bjarni. That caught me completely off guard. Bjarni looking to make the move here. Sheehan is a bit of a sitting duck, but somehow has managed to hold on to the position. Very aggressive move from Bjarni there. A little bit of contact made. All fair in love and racing there between Bjarni and Reg now down to P5. Another DRS pass looking to come up here for Bjarni, and he makes his way onto the podium. Welcome in, Connor. Hope you're doing well today. Hope you're having an absolutely terrific Tuesday. And yeah, fantastic overtaking there from Bjarni to make his way up into P3. Rank up with me and Magnussen going wheel to wheel through here, but Magnus really struggling on those medium compound tyres now. It was probably quite an easy overtake for rank up with me. Meanwhile, Matigia, who is on that 2-stop, is doing pretty well. Already made his way back into P10. He is at the front of all the drivers who've boxed, 3 seconds ahead of D-Mub. The difficulty now is going to be getting through these slower cars in front of him who haven't boxed yet for Matigia, because he doesn't want that gap behind him to come down too much. Obviously, D-Mub has to negotiate those cars as well, as does everybody else. But the longer that it takes for them to catch up to that train, the higher the likelihood that these cars are going to have boxed. So let's see what is going to go on here. A few cars coming into the pits. That is Sheehan and Reg, both boxing off those medium compound tyres. So they will be now boxing onto a set of hards, I assume, to the end. We also have Magnus coming in as well, and that releases Matigia up into P7. So that is quite good timing for him, but still a few drivers left in front. Arian, the only driver who started on the mediums, yet to box here now. So I imagine he is going to be taking a lot of pain right now, but will it pay off in the long run just to get that extra lap in for Arian? And it's looking like Matigia is pretty close to Dusty. Will he be close enough to make the overtake? No, not on this occasion. And he gets a 3-second time penalty. That was careless from Matigia. He was looking for the overspeed on Dusty so much that he just allowed himself to drift slightly wide on the corner entry, and that was really, really needless from Matigia. He's going to go for the move, locks up, and Matigia is getting a bit tireless here, I think. He's just losing his head a tiny bit, not showing enough patience, and it has cost him big time in his fight for a podium and potentially the win here today as well. As Dusty is going to have a hard struggle now to hold on to this P4 position, and Matigia makes it look pretty easy in the end, and you would imagine that that is done. John Marco in the background, meanwhile, getting past rank up with me as well, and now we are going to settle into the natural rhythm of the race. And Matigia dives into the pits again, in fact, so he is now going to do his second stop of the race onto another set of hard compound tyres, which he will be taking to the end of the race. So him and John Marco are the first to blink on that 2-stop. That is going to release D-Mub now. He is the front-running 2-stop runner, but obviously there is going to be another pit stop for him as well. You would imagine that Bjarni Olsen is going to come into the pit lane either this lap or next, as Matigia picks up another 3-second penalty. That's 6 seconds for him now. Not looking good for him. Bjarni stays out for another lap. Will we see any more of these one-stoppers come in on this lap? Marco staying out for another lap as they make their way on to 24. Bjarni on another lap, and Dusty staying out as well. So I think they're all waiting for the car in front to make a move before they think about doing it. I imagine that most of these guys are going to box on this lap. 24 laps on the hards, 12 laps on the mediums. Definitely should be possible. But Bjarni goes round again. I guess this is the luxury that Bjarni has, being so far out in front, is that he gets to react to pit stops. And Marco, in fact, has come in. I think Bjarni has stayed out and Dusty has stayed out. So far, it is only Marco that has blinked to come into the pit lane. Will it be a quick stop for Marco? Yes, it will. Nice and fast for him onto those medium compound tyres. Where is he going to come out? SLR Jam and Broadford and Sheehan are all going to be ahead of him. I think he should come out between Reg and Bourbon here, possibly behind them, actually. Yeah, Marco down into P10. So he has got a little bit of a fight back on his hands now if he wants to make his way back onto the podium. So that is good information for the rest of the drivers to know roughly where they are going to come out if they were to box now. It's looking like Bjarni would probably be between Reg and Matigia, and everybody else would be behind this train. So yeah, really valuable information. Marco now has got to make some overtakes happen if he wants to get through. Already made his way past Bourbon. Next up is going to be his teammate, who I can't imagine is going to fight this one too hard for P8. But then after that, Marco is completely on his own, and he's got a series of one-stoppers on old hards that he's got to make his way through. It, in theory, shouldn't be too difficult. The problem for Marco is, of course, that these guys are all going to be in a DRS train with each other. Broadford, Jam and Sheehan all in that DRS train, as Bjarni Olsen has come into the pits now, and you'd imagine everybody else is going to follow him in. Barmy's in, Dusty's in. Everybody now has made their stops, and I don't think we're going to see too many more stops. We might see Bourbon coming in again for another set of hard compound tyres. I don't think we're going to see anybody else. So, as things stand, Oliver Broadford leads the race, but don't forget, he does have that 3-second time penalty, which means that as things stand, if we were to cross the line in exactly this order with exactly these gaps, it would be SLR Jam who wins the race. But here is something absolutely crucial. I said that Bjarni had the luxury to react to the tyre differential because he was so far ahead. No is the answer. Marco has actually made his way out ahead of Bjarni. So if the one stop is going to work in favour of these medium compound runners, Marco is currently leading the race. Bjarni is only 5/10 down on Marco. So I imagine that Marco is going to clear most of these guys on this lap. He's got such a strong tyre advantage over them through the corners that he just has to make these moves really quickly. He's got to make them with absolute precision. He cannot afford to have any doubts in himself whatsoever. Already ahead of Sheehan with the DRS now, he will be looking for the moves on Jam and Broadford, who are battling away out in front for what I imagine could be the last spot on the podium. They're holding each other a little bit with this battling. That is going to hold up Marco as well, because he can't overtake two cars going wheel to wheel. But with the DRS, Marco is now going to look to make a move on Broadford and on Jam. Is he going to make the move happen? Riding on board with him, he's got ahead of Broadford, but crucially, he couldn't get ahead of Jam. This is a biblical 5-way battle between these cars right now. It is Jam, Marco, Broadford, Bjarni and Sheehan all fighting over position. They're all on a one-stop. Jam, Broadford and Sheehan have the much worse tyres, but crucially, Marco and Olsen are both through on Broadford and Sheehan now. So it is looking like it is going to be a clear fight between these two once they can get ahead of Jam. And this 3-way fight between Jam, Broadford and Sheehan has just created a really interesting scenario where suddenly we shouldn't be counting out the two-stop either. Because look, Matigia, yes, obviously I know that he's got those penalties. He's actually only 2 seconds off of these guys as well. Barmy, of course, coming through the field as well. 2-lap-old medium compound tyres as well. And Marco and Bjarni now both making their way through Jam, who has come into the pit lane again. So Jam is doing a late play for a two-stop. Is this going to work out for him? Pitting onto another set of medium compound tyres. Will be very interesting to see whether this works for Jam or not. I imagine Broadford and Sheehan probably going to the end on this one stop. Marco and Bjarni now are going to be in a straight fight for the win here today. Only 0.4 of a second. Surely now is the time for Bjarni Olsen to take the lead in this race. Marco is going to hold on with everything he's got, but has he got enough battery to keep Bjarni Olsen behind? It doesn't look like he will. Bjarni moves to the inside, and by the time they get to the corner, he is going to be a full car length ahead and able to move back to the outside. So Bjarni Olsen currently leads the race. SLR Jam taking that fastest lap, 1:16.2, and Marco's job now is to try and hold on to the back of Bjarni if he can. As they come through the detection point, he's going to be 8-9 tenths behind. I don't know if this is going to be close enough for Marco to re-overtake, but it'll certainly enable him to stay with Bjarni for another lap. Marco now closing the gap down to 0.6 of a second, 5 tenths, 4 tenths, 3 tenths. But he's not going to go for the move. He's going to stay behind Bjarni on this occasion. Remember, there is another DRS zone here as Matigia makes his way past Broadford up into P3, and Barmy will want to follow him through to make sure that he cements his position on the podium. Is Marco going to look for a move into turn 4 here? I think he's going to think better of it and just stay with Bjarni for now. Now the gap is a lot closer. Just 0.4 of a second. It's looking like Marco is going to retake the lead of this race as we get on to lap 33. 4 laps to go here. Do not look away from this race. It could go either way. It could be Olsen. It could be Marco. We just don't know as Marco retakes the lead with that DRS. Behind, we've got Matigia looking to hold position to Barmy Tick, but I think Barmy Tick, with the lack of penalties, is going to be able to beat Matigia here today, who has 6 seconds worth of penalties. Back on the main straight, it's Marco versus Bjarni for P1, and Bjarni is 7 tenths behind Marco. Is he going to be close enough to get ahead of Marco on this occasion? He's thinking about it, but he's just biding his time. Looked like he might have gone off track there a little bit, to be honest. He was very tight to the outside on in any case. So now Bjarni is going to have to try and get through in this next DRS zone. This one is a lot harder to get past. It really is the main straight that's your main overtaking spot on this track, unless you have a massive advantage over your competitor. But it is looking really, really close between these two. Marco holding on. The question is, who's going to be ahead on lap 36? Because that's ultimately what I think this is going to come down to. Whoever is ahead when we get to that first corner of lap 36, that is going to be our winner here today between Marco and Bjarni. Meanwhile, the gap is slowly coming down. Matigia is closing these two in, but I just think that 6-second penalty has fully ruined this for Matigia. If he hadn't got those penalties, a win could potentially still be on for him here today. But as things stand, I think Matigia is probably going to end up being about P7. So another round of this epic scrap between Marco and Bjarni. There's only 2 more rounds of this left before the race is done. Who is going to be the victor here today? Is it going to be Marco? Is it going to be Bjarni? Bjarni Olsen looking for a move into turn 1, finds it. Bjarni retakes the lead with less than 2 laps to go now, but crucially, there's probably only one more overtaking opportunity, and it is going to come the way of Marco. So who is going to win this race? I just can't tell right now, but I cannot wait to find out. I am going to be, I would say on the edge of my seat, but I'm stood up. So I am going to be on my tiptoes, I don't know, trying to find out who is going to win this race. I cannot wait. We want to see a great battle here between Bjarni and Marco on the final lap. Marco has to stay with Bjarni though. He can't afford to lose too much time. Remember, Bjarni still has that tyre advantage over Marco. It is only 1 lap, but Marco staying with him into that next DRS zone. He's going to close the gap a little bit. He's going to use a little bit of battery as well. The gap is going to come down to 5 tenths of a second. Is it going to be close enough for Marco to think about making a move on lap 36? Just 5-6 tenths separates these two drivers at the moment. It is going to be super close between these two. Bjarni extending the gap out to 7 tenths of a second, but Marco is definitely in that range where if he's got enough in the battery, he could potentially make this move down the very long DRS straight, but he needs to push really hard. Maybe we could see a late braking move here from Marco. Gap comes down 3 tenths, 2 tenths, not close enough. Maybe he's going to think about going for a move in the next DRS zone. He needs to make that move now. I don't think the final DRS zone is going to bear any fruit for him, and Marco just might be slightly too far away to think about going for a move on Bjarni Olsen. I think that tyre differential was just slightly too much between these two drivers in the end, and Bjarni Olsen is going to hold on, and it's looking like, barring any mistakes from the Faroese driver now, it is going to be back-to-back wins for him, and Marco will once again be the bridesmaid today. The final podium position looks like it is going to come the way of Barmy Tick once the penalties are applied to Matigia. Dusty Bassoon looking like he's good for P5, and I think Broadford, if I'm not mistaken, has 6 seconds worth of penalties, so he is probably going to fall down to around P9, P10. We'll be lucky to stay in the points. But the win today is going to go the way of this man. He had a fantastic run, snatched victory from Marco in the final few laps last time. Today it was far more controlled, but Marco certainly gave him a bit of a scare in the final few laps. And when all is said and done, as we round the final corner, it is going to be Bjarni Olsen who wins for the 2nd time in Season 10 of Streamers & Co Division 1. Fantastic result from him. Marco clutches P2, and Barmy takes the final spot on the podium. The reserve driver in that V-carb will be on the podium with them. Dusty Bassoon, once the penalties are applied, takes P4, and is going to be Matigia in P5, D-Mub P6, Sheehan P7. Jam, making that late stop, deciding that his strategy wasn't going to work, manages to recover himself to P8. Broadford will take P9, and Reg Meister will round out the top 10. The rest of the drivers, John Marco, Tom, Arian, Bourbon, Magnus, and rank up with me, going for the fastest lap, will be rounding out the field here as he makes his way round the final corner, crosses the line. And what a fantastic finale that was. Really unexpected. Great performance there from Bjarni and from Marco. and some really strong performances all throughout. God, I need a drink after that. That was crazy. And it looks like Bjarni is going to be your driver of the day today, so congratulations Bjarni Olsen on not only the win, but also the vote for driver of the day as well. What an incredible race that was. Really exciting work. Really enjoyed that one. For now, I have been your host. My name is Realm Copier. I hope you enjoyed. I will be joining you guys again next Tuesday for another fantastic Division 1 race around Brazil, which I believe is going to be a sprint race. So there will be double the action, or maybe 1.3 times the action that you would expect of a normal Division 1 race next time out.